Welcome back to a brand new episode of The A-Game. I'm your host, JD Rogers. We've got a lot going on in the sports world, with some seasons wrapping up and others taking off. App State softball and baseball have officially hit the field. Do our analysts think these teams have lived up to the hype, and how will they fare when conference play starts? And don't forget, it's March, which means the madness is about to begin for college sports fans. We'll be talking about what fans can expect from both the women's and men's teams come tournament time. Let's hit it off with App State baseball and softball. There's a lot going on with these two teams since they've started. We have expert analysts to tell us more about these teams. I'm here with Dylan Shepard, sports reporter for the Appalachian and announcer for App State baseball, and Will Battershow, play-by-play announcer for 90.5 WASU. For App State softball, there's a new coach on top of the mountain. What have you guys thought about the season so far?
So our new coach this year for the Mountaineers is Whitney Jones. And this team has gotten off to a bit of a slow and rocky start. They've dropped a couple of their early series against non-conference opponents, and their road schedule has really been against them a lot. They haven't had a home game this year. Their first home game's in late March. So at this point in the season, I think Coach Jones has done pretty good with what she's been able to have in terms of her roster, because she has a lot of young talent that she has to incorporate into her team. And obviously, with it being a new head coach, new coaching staff, you have to get your adjustments in as the season progresses. So coming in, I think we expected the season to be a rebuild season, and so far, that's what it's turned out to be.
And their record might not be the greatest right now because they are playing a lot of high-profile teams. They played 3 or more top 25 teams in these invitationals that they've gone to. And so they're getting the experience against these good teams. They're not winning. They've taken 2 to overtime, and the other one was a 2-point game. So the games are close. They're right there. They just need to figure it out just a little bit more.
Yeah, and adding on to that, as you mentioned, they're playing a lot of really good teams. They've been traveling all over the place. Virginia, South Carolina, Alabama a couple times. They opened the season at Auburn for an Auburn Invitational there. So they've been all over the place, and they've been getting that really good experience playing in these hostile road environments in front of hostile road crowds. And that experience will pay dividends come March and come Sunbelt tournament time, because you're going to be used to those loud environments against these really good road teams, because the Sunbelt Conference is projected to be pretty competitive this year.
And with these tough opponents and everything coming into the start of the season, have y'all noticed any standouts that have been performing on the field?
Yeah, there's been a couple. I would like to talk about a couple transfers. First of all, Sophie Moshos, who's one of our pitchers, she's out of Transylvania. She's been a stud out there in the circle on the mound. She's been throwing lights out. She got the first complete game for the Mountaineers this year just a couple games ago. So that's one of the transfers that I'd like to highlight. And then moving on to a couple of the freshmen, I think Leah Gore, one of our catchers, has been an absolute stud behind the plate. She's done really well fitting in from Apex High, and she's done a really good job just stepping into that freshman role, getting a lot of first-team reps, getting a lot of starts as well. She's got a lot of pop in the bat. She's been a really good addition to this team.
And I think my standout player is Taylor Chubley. In the last 10 games, she's batting .448, 4 doubles, 3 home runs. Just been lights out from the batter's box.
I'd like to mention a couple more of the younger players. There's Michaela McLean, who was recently named the Sunbelt Conference Player of the Week. She was absolutely insane in the batter's box against Liberty in that Liberty Invitational. There were a couple other teams she played against, but she was lights out there, hitting the ball all over the place. And then there's also Grace Barrett, who got off to a really hot start this year. She's had a couple of home runs. She's made a couple of nice plays out there. And they're both sophomores. Well, Grace Barrett's a sophomore. McLean's a transfer junior. But regardless, they've been really good. They've been really talented, and that's been some of the main talent that's powering this App State team so far.
And this team has now had some time to really become a team. How do you think that is going to play into the conference play that's coming up?
I think when conference play comes up, I think they're going to be a little more gelled. Of course, we mentioned that it's a first-year head coach in Whitney Jones. So getting some time to get that system in place and get used to how Jones coaches and how that coaching staff builds a game plan for the game will take that a little bit of time until we get to conference play, until we get to the Sunbelt tournament. But once we get to that time, I think this team's going to be really hitting their stride and getting used to the chemistry, their different roles and responsibilities. I think by that point, they should be performing significantly better.
And I think with how good of opponents we're playing, it's going to really help us, like you were saying, because they're getting this experience versus these top 25 teams. Nobody in the Sun Belt is ranked top 25 right now. So they're going to have that competitive edge over everybody else because they've got that experience and they've played tough against those really good teams.
Now we're going to round the base right here over to baseball. How do you think the App State baseball team has played so far this season?
This App State baseball team has not lived up to the expectations we saw last season. Last year, they had a really high-powered offense. This year, they have that same high-powered offense, but it's just been a step below the production of last season. Obviously, you had a lot of high-talented players leave last year. Banks Tolley, C.J. Boyd, Drew Holderback are all off this team. Austin St. Laurent was another member of that team. He's got drafted by the Mariners last season. So this year, having to replace a lot of that talent has been a little bit difficult. But so far, especially offensively, they've been pretty good. It's just the pitching and defense that need to take a step up.
And the pitching in the mountains is always the hardest thing because you're elevated, the ball's going to carry more because the air is thinner. So it's really hard to be a pitcher when you come up onto the mountain at App State. So far they haven't been awful. Their ERA is actually lower than what it was for the season last year. So they're off to a solid start, and the bats are as hot as you want them to be. So if the bullpen and just pitching staff in general could step it up just a little bit more, then we could see them going on a massive streak.
Going off of what you just said, well, this pitching staff has one of the worst ERAs among Sunbelt Conference teams. That is the main weakness of this program. You have the high-powered offense that's able to get into high-scoring affair after high-scoring affair. We've seen a couple games recently that have gone double-digit scores for both teams. I think back to the Gardner-Webb series where App State got into a 16-14 game against Gardner-Webb, and they lost that game in regulation in 9 innings. That's a game that, had the pitching been better, they should have won that game by multiple runs. This pitching staff has not been very good. I especially look at the bullpen that has not been very good. We have a lot of players that come in into different roles and responsibilities, and they're not getting the job done half the time. It's frankly not very fun to watch when you have so many of these arms coming in and they give up hit after hit, run after run. I've seen it firsthand. You've seen it firsthand before. It's not very fun when you get into these high-scoring affairs and the pitching just can't keep up.
You know what the common factor is, though? Elevation. Most of their high-scoring games on offense and defense, or pitching, come at Jim and Betty Smith Stadium, where their elevation's at 3,500 feet. The ball's going to carry if you get a hold of it, and it shows on both sides of the ball. We're hitting home runs, we're giving up home runs, and that's just the name of the game.
Well, App State baseball started their season playing a lot of games in Hickory, so I wouldn't necessarily agree with that point. They had a couple series at LP France Stadium, which is right next to the Hickory campus for App State. They played a couple games at Lenore-Ryan University because they had games moved there due to weather. And they were struggling in some of those games as well. They played a couple series against Queens. They played against UMass Lowell when they got into a bunch of high-scoring affairs there. The pitching's just struggling regardless of where they play, and that's going to need to be something that steps up as we get further into this season.
Yeah, and I'm loving the banter from y'all right now. You mentioned a couple maybe of the poorer parts of the team that you think. What are some of the standout players?
Oh, it's got to be Juan Correa. He's been an absolute stud right now on this team. Juan Correa recently launched 2 home runs against Wake Forest, top 15 opponent. I believe he's got 7 on the season as of that game, and he's just been one of the main guys to get the job done on offense. Besides that, I look at a couple really talented freshmen. Tyler Lichtenberger, Riley Luft have been really standout out there. Luft made a spectacular catch against Gardner-Webb a couple series ago, and he's been really hot with the bat. Lichtenberger down there in the order 7, 8, 9 spot has been really good on offense as well, making the plays he needs to make at shortstop. There are guys that you need to keep an eye on as the season progresses.
And I'm going to go to the bullpen because I think Cal Clark deserves his appreciation. Cal Clark has been amazing for this App State team. You put him in, he gets your outs you need, and he's out of the game because he's that prototypical reliever. But he has done everything he's need to keep App State in these games.
And stay right where you are. We will be right back with more of the A Game.
Welcome to Boone, North Carolina. Located along the Blue Ridge Parkway, nestled in the Appalachian Mountains, there is no place like it. Take a stroll down charming King Street, where you are sure to see a familiar face welcoming you. In the summer, go tubing down the New River, where the water runs almost as deep as our Mountaineer pride. When the leaves change in the fall, pack a picnic and head to Thunderhill Overlook, where the skyline is so vibrant you can't help but send a picture to all of your family and friends. In the winter, check out one of our nearby ski resorts, where Yosef might just challenge you to a race down the slopes. And year-round, you can take in some of the most breathtaking views wherever you turn. As soon as you arrive in Boone, you'll realize there is something special in these mountains. Welcome home, and welcome to the valley.
Education is vital for growth and progress. What we learn shapes our future and the world that lies before us. That's why App State keeps advancing our founding mission of access to academic excellence. New programs provide new opportunities. New facilities open new doors for faculty and students. Tomorrow's solutions can be found here today. Here at the premier public undergraduate institution in the Southeast, here at App State.
What once were rows of crops are now hallways for growing our future. The old ways that served generations before are now the perfected paths of tomorrow. These mountains have always called to the pathfinder, the trailblazer, the innovator. The faces and structures may change, but one thing remains constant: access to higher education, here and always at App State.
To a place where you can grow.
A place to be heard.
And take a closer look.
A place where you can crush it.
And push yourself.
A place to find your voice.
This place rocks. And rolls.
A place where you can get out.
Wow! A place you'll never forget.
So where is this place? Let me show you.
Bryce in the shotgun takes a snap. Troy sends 4. Bryce rolls left, gonna heave it deep, and it's not gonna get there. It's caught by Christian Horn. He's around the outside, and he scores! He scores! App State wins! Holy mother meatballs! It's a touchdown for App State on a Hail Mary! Christian Horn! Touchdown!
To a place where you can grow.
A place to be heard.
And take a closer look.
A place where you can crush it.
And push yourself.
A place to find your voice.
This place rocks. And rolls.
A place where you can get out.
Wow! A place you'll never forget.
So where is this place? Let me show you.
Welcome back to the A Game. It's March, so let's jump right into the madness coming for NCAA basketball. We'll tip it off with the men's side of things and what this postseason will look like. I'm here with AJ Williams, basketball fan and analyst for the A Game, and Matthew Campbell-Young, rookie of the A Game. There's been many teams fluctuating in the top spots this year. Who are y'all's favorites to win it all?
I think right out of the get-go, Auburn. I mean, their team is just so good all around. You have Broome, who's just dominated in college basketball right now. I mean, he's obviously one of the candidates, probably other than Cooper Flagg, to win Player of the Year right now. And also with their guard play, with how good their team is overall, all they need to do, even if Broome has the worst game of basketball in his life, they can still win by 20. And also, I have St. John's, who is a old school team, but they can get it done fundamentally. They have one of the best defenses. They'll dive for the ball. They'll make that extra effort to go and win it all.
I'll have to agree with AJ here. I do think Auburn is probably the favorite for the tournament. They built the best resume. They have the most quad one wins of any team in all of college basketball, 16-2. The SEC may not be the strongest conference basketball-wise, but I think they've proven, especially with Broome leading them in almost every major statistics, points, steals, rebounds, and assists, he's just going to be able, like a big person. I also have Michigan State as one of my favorites to win. I think they're a statistics dream. They're also a top team with a top 5 scoring bench in all of college basketball. As well, they're one of the highest in rebound margins, so I think they're one of the most favorites to go.
Yeah, and looking kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum here, who is going to make that Cinderella run that we see every single year in March Madness?
I believe High Point is a team that could go on for a long run. They have a top 20 offense right now, and they've also already won their regular season in conference, which is just crazy because they're in a pretty tough conference right now. And with how they're playing, they can make a really, really long run. Also, I have UConn, who isn't living to the hype that they always do with one of the best coaches in the league, Dan Hurley, but they have a young squad. They're led by a freshman right now, and also they also kind of play like how St. John's does. They're coached very fundamentally, and with a team that has a coach that just won it last year, I think they can go as far as they want to.
Again, I'll have to agree with AJ. My Cinderella story for the tournament is going to have to be High Point. I used to be a former student in High Point. I know a lot of these players. I watched a lot of basketball, especially last season. Since they've hired Huss, they hired him out of Creighton. He's created this team into a March Madness bubble, and I think this is the year they finally crack in for their first ever March Madness. They've been a top 15 team since the start of the year. They've been led by 7'1" center Bodo, as well as Keza Giffa, their point guard. I just think they're ready to go, and I think they can make a win or two, especially they're considered a 13 seed at the moment. I also have Blue Blood Chapel Hill. There's a little personal bias there, I'll have to admit, but they've gotten hot at the right time. I think they've won about 8 of their last few games, and they're going into the ACC's tournament pretty strong.
A lot of love for High Point out here and some of the Blue Bloods as well. What teams do y'all think could get bounced a little early? Some may say they could be fraudulent.
I believe Kentucky, a team who last year got beat by a dude who could just shoot three-pointers. And it was kind of embarrassing. And they have known history. Last year was the only time they got beat out early. And I think there's a lot of issues going on with that team. They have very inconsistent record. Yeah, they're in the SEC, which is obviously the hardest conference right now with all the teams that's going to make the tournament. But right now, they're 8-8 in Quadrant 1 games. And that's very inconsistent. And all it takes is one team to get hot, and it's kind of over. And I also have Illinois, who right now they allow 15 points off of turnovers, and they're also going off of that. They're careless with the ball, and they don't have a player like Broome or Cooper Flagg right now. They don't have a top player. And in today's game, you need that top player, or else I don't think you can find success.
For me, my biggest fraud watch is going to have to be Gonzaga. They're at their lowest three-point shooting percentage since 2008. And under Coach Mark Few, they're at their highest three-point percentage shot selection this year. It's just not a good combination. I understand they're in the top 10, but my gut just tells me Gonzaga is not going to have a long tournament.
And we do see that with Gonzaga year in and year out. We'll see if they can switch it up. But I guess we'll just have to find out what happens. It should be exciting for sure. Up next, we've got more hoops to talk about. The Women's NCAA Tournament is setting up for an exciting postseason.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Appalachian Weekly News. I'm Jenna Dunning.
And I'm Hunter Boston. We have you covered on all things Ashe, Avery, and Watauga County.
Welcome back to Black at App State TV. I'm your host, Rhea Autry, and we are so happy to have you here with us today.
Bienvenidos a otro episodio Buenos Días Boone. Yo soy Natalia Guiar.
Y yo soy Denise Casales.
Hello and welcome back to another brand new episode of Can't Think Straight.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Connected Cultures.
This is Adam Church, live with the Adam Church Band, RFG baby.
Hello and welcome to Religion and Life.
I'm your host, Ozzy Ostwald.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the A Game.
It's a good moment, you know?
Hi, Pixels.
Oh my god, no!
That doesn't sound good at all.
Welcome back, my fellow insomniacs.
Life is a journey. We're told that there are mountains and valleys before us. A mountaineer trudges through. Where others see an obstacle, a mountaineer sees an opportunity. A mountaineer climbs tomorrow's mountains today. So what is a mountaineer? A mountaineer is you.
Bryce in the shotgun takes a snap. Troy sends 4. Bryce rolls left, gonna heave it deep, and it's not gonna get there. It's caught by Christian Horn. He's around the outside, and it scores! He scores! App State wins! Holy mother meatballs! It's a touchdown for App State on a Hail Mary! Christian Horn! Touchdown!
To a place where you can grow.
A place to be heard.
And take a closer look.
A place where you can crush it.
And push yourself.
A place to find your voice.
This place rocks. And rolls. A place where you can get out.
A place you'll never forget.
So where is this place? Let me show you.
Education is vital for growth and progress. What we learn shapes our future and the world that lies before us. That's why App State keeps advancing our founding mission of access to academic excellence. New programs provide new opportunities. New facilities open new doors for faculty and students. Tomorrow's solutions can be found here today. Here at the premier public undergraduate institution in the Southeast. Here at App State.
What once were rows of crops are now hallways for growing our future. The old ways that served generations before are now the perfected paths of tomorrow. These mountains have always called to the pathfinder, the trailblazer, the innovator. The faces and structures may change, but one thing remains constant: access to higher education, here and always at App State.
After such a thrilling tournament last year, women's college basketball is highly anticipated by many fans across the country. Their postseason is almost here, so let's take a look at what is to come this March. I'm here with Chris Torr, reporter for the Appalachian Weekly News, and Isaac Edwards, sports photographer for the Appalachian. Guys, this season has been full of excitement. Who are y'all's favorites to win it all this year?
So mine, I have to start off with UConn. UConn women's team, it looks really good. You got Gino, who's 27 out of the 30 years he's been there. You know, he's had more than 20 wins. He's won 11 championships, been to the Final Four multiple times. So he has a good track record of getting this UConn team to gel really well at this time of the year. And they have Paige Buchers, who's their star point guard, who was out last season, so she got an extra year of eligibility. So for her and Gino to be, teaming up, I think that UConn's definitely going to be my favorite. There's others on that team that, like Isaiah Fudd, who's, averaging around like 12 points a game. So there's other players that are helping UConn to do really well. But UConn and their formula and their track record of winning, I definitely have UConn as my favorite.
Give me USC, guys. Come on. They have the #2 scorer in the country in Juju Watkins. She's dropping 24 points a game. I don't care what team you're on, what team. When you have a star player like that, any team with a star player can make a run so far in this tournament. It only takes like 6 wins, guys. That's not a lot. That's not a lot of wins. So Juju Watkins, probably the MVP of the tournament, in my opinion. It's going to be the MVP.
6 in a row is harder than you would think at this point in the game. Women's basketball has a pretty high, top-heavy field. What do you all think are some sleepers coming into this tournament?
One of mine is Duke. I think Duke is one of my sleepers just because they have a freshman named Fournier. She's from Canada. She's 6'2". She can actually, one of the few girls who I believe can dunk in college. So I think Duke is going to be a scary team, even though they're ACC. So I think Duke is going to have a pretty scary chance of shocking some people in this tournament.
And watch out, in my opinion, watch out for JMU, Sunbelt's own. They are undefeated in conference play, and they did not lose a game in January. According to bracketology, they're the 12th seed, which in my opinion is one of the scariest seeds in the tournament. Every year, and as it seems, one 12th seed is going to win. I'm saying JMU, that Cinderella team you got to watch out for. Bracket buster, probably.
And maybe somebody will match up against JMU, but who do you think will leave the tournament early this year? Some of those higher seeds.
Yeah, give me the reigning champion, South Carolina. They've had a harder schedule this year just because that's what their coach wanted, and they're losing more games because of that. And I think that's just rocky. That's not good for team chemistry going into the tournament. If they're probably going to get like a 3 seed, a 2 seed. They're going to win that game, but playing like an 8 or a 9 in the next round is going to be a very tough challenge for this South Carolina team.
My team was Texas Christian, or TCU, because they had, I believe, the 53rd strongest schedule in the nation. So their record was like 28-3 or 27-3 or something of that nature, and they were in the top 10. But I did not have the strongest scheduling to me, even though they have a lot of talent. Like Haley Van Lith is on that roster, and she's a big player. She's played in national championship games. She's been there. They have a really good, talented team. But I just think that, from my point of view, just my heart, and from just seeing their strength of schedule, I just think that when it's time to play someone really good, I think they're going to get bounced early in the tournament.
And after Caitlin Clark left last year, there's still a lot of superstars in the women's college basketball. Who do you all expect to really carry their team and make a statement in this tournament?
I think it was going off of kind of what he said. Mine is Juju Watkins as well, because she's very young, she's very talented. Even Caitlin Clark is gone. She has all around great game. Her offense is great. Her defense is great. She works with a trainer, Phil Handy, in the offseason, who she wants to perfect her game, and she's really nasty player. She's averaging, I think, around 24 points a game, and she was the fastest in USC's history to 1,000 points. So I think that for her as a sophomore, I believe she is. She has a lot of growth to do as like junior or senior, but I think she can be a really USC is going to really depend on her to take USC far in this tournament.
Yeah, and give me Paige Buchers. Coming off a season-ending injury, it's kind of a revenge season for her, kind of. So, and it's her last season. I really think she wants to go out with a bang, making the Final Four in the national championship.
All right, well, you heard it here first. This March will be a must-watch for college basketball fans, as they always turn out to be on both the men's and women's side of the ball. Make sure to fill out your bracket and keep up with all the madness. As always, thank you for joining us on The A-Game. We'll see you again soon, and make sure to follow us on @TheA-Game Sports to stay up to date with all things sports.